When creating new garden beds, most home gardeners will think of spring, but fall is actually a really good time to prep your garden beds and get your plants in the ground so that they can establish over the winter. In the spring, they're going to look so much nicer and they're going to grow a lot quicker. So in this video, I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can create a garden bed right over your grass. It's typically called the no-dig method or sheet mulching. So I hope you enjoy. So the first step is to just cut your grass, and you're going to want to cut it as low as possible, and watch out for the dog. I had to get her out of the way. Okay, so you're just going to be mowing the grass, get it on the lowest possible setting that you can, and just clear out the area as best you can with the mower. Once I was finished mowing, I grabbed the weed whacker and I just basically scalped the yard as low as humanly possible. You just want to get all of the grass out of the way as much as you can as you're doing this. So if your mower goes really low on a really low setting, then you should be fine. But I had to go back through with the weed whacker and just take care of all of the little extra choppy things that were in the grass. Next, I'm going to use a rope to just lay out the bed line that I want. So I'm going to lay this out and just sort of get it into the shape that I want it to be. And then I step back, so you'll see me coming off camera here. And basically I'm just standing back and looking at the shape and making sure it's exactly how I want it. And I kept going back and readjusting that rope until I had it just right. So make sure that you take some time on this particular step just so that you get the bed line that you really want. You can use a rope, you can use a garden hose, anything that you have laying around really. It doesn't really matter what you use, but you can see here that I went back maybe 3 times. And I kind of already had a really good idea of what I wanted, but this looks good to me now. So now I'm using the rope as a guide to create the edge of my garden bed. And I'm using a half moon edger, or you can use just a really sharp shovel. And basically I'm just using that rope as a guide. And as I stick the half moon edger into the ground, you see I'm wiggling it just a little bit. And that's just to separate the grass, just to make it easier so that I can see the line. And I'm just going really slowly and making sure that I get that nice bed line that I want. I know it's the no dig method and people say, oh, well, you have to dig. Well, you have to dig a little bit of an edge out. And so this is definitely, trust me, this is way easier than having to dig out the sod for the entire bed. You really just have to do a little trench in the beginning. And then after that, you're all set. So take your time with this step. It is a little bit of a process, and I'd recommend doing it after it rains. Maybe cut the grass. I cut the grass when it was still wet, and that wasn't great. So maybe cut the grass earlier and then come back after a rain and do the edging part of it. That will make it a lot easier and it'll go a lot quicker for you. Okay, in this next step, we're basically turning that line that we just dug into a trench. So I'm still using the half moon edger here. You could use a shovel or whatever you have on hand. And basically I'm just going maybe like 4 to 6 inches out from the line that I just cut. And I'm going in at a 45-degree angle and just kind of cutting a trench or a little V-shaped notch in the grass. And you can see as I'm doing that, I'm making sure that I'm touching exactly where I went down before, and I'm pulling up the sod there. So you're really just removing maybe 4 to 6 inches of sod at an angle here. Now I'm just going through and I'm going to remove that little chunk of sod that's across that line that we cut. So get a little bin or a tarp or something, and you can take those chunks of sod and just pull them out from the garden bed. And a lot of times I'll use these chunks of sod in other places of my yard if I have a dirt spot, or you can also flip them upside down so that the grass is on the bottom of the sod piece, and you can use that to fill in other areas of your garden beds. If you have a trench somewhere else that you may have dug earlier and you need to fill that in, it's a great little piece to have to just fill that in. But this really simple step, you're just removing that piece of sod so that you have the little V trench. Now I'm just doing a quick cleanup of my lines to make sure that everything is sharp and the entire trench is about the same width across. So I'm just going back in with the half moon edger, doing a little 45-degree cut and cleaning everything up. And just a little bit of quick cleanup here. I'm just raking all of the grass from the cut grass to make sure that that's out of the way and just making it as nice as possible so that I can start doing the sheet mulching. You'll start to see that water is pretty important when sheet mulching. So before I even get the cardboard going, I'm going to wet the ground completely and just make sure that everything has a nice base watered layer. So now we're finally at the fun part where you get your cardboard sheets out and we're going to start putting them over the grass. So you can use any type of cardboard, really. You want to save your Amazon boxes and things like that. Just make sure that you tear all of the plasticky tape or paper off of them. And it's better to use a flat or a matte finish and nothing shiny, like don't use a cereal box, for example. And I just have a bunch of boxes that were in my garage forever, and I'm just kind of taking these and I'm wetting them with the hose. So everything has to be wet when you're sheet mulching. This isn't a permanent fix or a permanent solution to your garden like a weed barrier would be, for example. So the goal really is to get this cardboard on there to help suppress the grass growing, help suppress weeds for the year, but you also want it to break down into the soil over time. So this is going to last about a year, and wetting it on the tops and the bottoms as I'm doing here as you're watching me, that's going to help it to start to decompose already, and it also helps it to stick to the ground. So at this point, if it's not sticking or it's kind of blowing away in the wind or things like that, you can either set little rocks on top, but sometimes I'll just put little stones on top of the cardboard to hold it in place. Another thing that you can try is landscape pins, the little horseshoe shaped pins. You can stick those into the cardboard just temporarily to hold it down so it's not blowing away on you. It was a nice day when I was doing this, so I didn't have that issue, and normally I do have that issue, so I just want to bring that up, that it is a thing that you may need to address. And I'm just kind of grabbing the cardboard and laying it out. So you could see towards the back and towards the front, I already have established garden beds, established plants that are growing. And if you want to sheet mulch around them, you totally can. Just tear the cardboard and tear it in a way that goes around your plants, and you can get pretty close up to your plants, but don't get right up to the stem or anything like that. Give them a couple inches, but you can kind of go around your existing plants. You can overlap the cardboard. You can see here that I'm overlapping it quite a bit as well, and I'm just kind of pulling off pieces and layering it and just filling that whole space. Basically cover all of the grass that you can. And the final step is really just to mulch over top of this cardboard. Now, if you're planning on adding compost to your garden, or you need to amend your soil and things like that, a lot of people will recommend that you add a layer of compost on top of the cardboard in order to enrich your soil and let that decompose and things. So if that's something that you want to do, it's totally okay to do. I've done it both ways. I've done it with the compost, I've done it without. So if it's a brand new garden bed and the soil isn't that great underneath, I kind of would recommend adding the compost. But here I'm just doing the mulch. So I'm taking all of my mulch bags and I'm just dumping them, and I'm going to spread it. You want it to be maybe 3 or 4 inches deep as you can get it. I really just try to cover the cardboard so that it's not visible at all, so that you're not actually having to see the cardboard. And that's really the entire process of sheet mulching. Now, you might have some issues with the edges of the garden bed, so I didn't do anything here in this video where I made that V notch. I'm planning on adding a brick edging along there at a later date, not right now. So there is sort of a little bit of grass peeking through in that spot that I noticed. So if you're having that issue too, where you're seeing like a little bit of grass peeking out, you may need to grab like little strips of cardboard and just sort of cover that notch area a little bit better and mulch into that V notch. Just so that you don't have the grass growth at the very edges of the bed. But overall, it's a really simple process. You'll even see me in this video adding a couple stepping stones in there. It's not the real proper way to add stepping stones to your garden because I didn't level anything, I didn't add a base or anything, but just to be able to walk across that without really disturbing the mulch and kicking it all over the place, I thought the stepping stones would work just fine for now. So that's the entire sheet mulching process. A lot of people will say that you have to wait about a year before you can plant in there, but I actually planted into this exact bed 20 minutes later. The plants are doing totally fine, so you can definitely plant right into it later. And just to let you know, this actually is a video directly from my Design Your 4-Season Garden course. I have an entire section of the course related to getting to the planting and how to actually put the plants into the ground. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description below if you're interested in creating a beautiful flowering garden bed that looks great in every single season. And I'll see you over in the next video.